I'm Tom Baker, this is Chasing Cars, and today we're here at the 2019 Geneva International Motor Show checking out the all-new Mazda CX-30. Now, the CX-30 is the new small SUV in Mazda's lineup that we've been talking about for some time. Now, we didn't know whether it was going to be a new CX-3, a new CX-4. Turns out it was neither. It is the CX-30. But the concept is basically what we thought this SUV was going to be all about. It's a new model for the Mazda crossover lineup that splits the difference size-wise between the very small CX-3 and the mid-size CX-5. So why are Mazda doing this? Why are they adding a new nameplate to their SUV lineup? Well, basically because people, especially Australians, cannot get enough of these vehicles. Back home, not only do SUVs account for about 57% of the market, the Mazda CX-5 is the best-selling of all of those vehicles. So having a new car that's a little bit smaller, a little bit more city-sized is probably a smart move in our view. It's also a smart move that this thing looks really good. I actually reckon it might be the best looking of Mazda's SUVs. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Do you reckon this thing looks good? Do you reckon it's one too many vehicles in this lineup? I want to know what you think. Either way, the CX-30 is an important car. It's the second new generation product from Mazda that implements the Mazda premium philosophy, so the cabin ought to be pretty nice. And what we're going to do is we're going to jump inside, check out the fittings in there, see how plush and luxurious it is, check out the room in the back and in the boot, how practical is this new little SUV from Mazda, before a few concluding remarks and some initial Australian details, because we know that this thing will be coming down under, but not for about another year. We're expecting to see it in 2020. But for now, let's jump inside. What's very different about the CX-30 inside compared to a CX-3 or a CX-5 is just the sheer quality of the thing. It's not to say that the interiors on the existing Mazda SUVs are crappy by any stretch. It's just that the CX-30 substantially upgrades the plush character of the cabin. So all around you, there's soft touch material, incredibly plush armrest, big soft pads up here on the dash, the doors, really prominent stitching. It all looks and feels, properly premium in here. The new steering wheel looks lovely. It's got a nice thin rim, no flat bottom. It's a proper round steering wheel, as they should be, and it feels really soft and creamy. Likewise, the leather gear shifter and the knurled finishes on the switchgear. All in all, this feels like a really nice place to spend time. It also gains all the new cues from the Mazda premium philosophy that we saw on the new Mazda 3, including significant new metal aspects to the switchgear and a new infotainment screen up here. It now measures 8.8 inches. It's no longer a touchscreen, and that's Mazda says that's to place it a little bit further toward the bonnet, better in the driver's line of sight. The commander dial that you use to control it has been enlarged, so have the soft keys. So it now feels a little bit more Germanic, a bit more European in terms of how you interact with all of the technology. There's a mix of analog and digital in terms of the dials that sit in front of you. Still an analog tack, a lot of people like that, but you get a digital circular display in the center of it all that gives you your trip computer information. That's basically just a circular version of the square digital display we've seen on other recent Mazdas. In terms of how the cabin actually feels, it's quite a narrow aperture in the windows and in the windshield, so it feels quite sporty. But in terms of visibility, it doesn't seem too bad. The rear window isn't too small. There's little 3/4 bits of glass back there, but we'll have to wait and see until we drive this thing on the road. The seats, they're brand new. They are similar to the ones in the Mazda 3, and they're specifically designed to support the natural S-curve of the back, we're told. And all I can say on first impressions is that they feel pretty comfy. Thigh angle adjustment, one of my favorite features, subscribers would know that. That's actually standard even on the base car, which has cloth seats. But this one's high end. It's got the pure white leather. Black leather is also an option. But interestingly, there's now either a brown theme or a blue theme for the accents up here on the dash. This one's got the brown, but the blue would be pretty interesting to see as well. Practicality wise, not bad. 2 cup holders ahead of the shifter, a little tray there ahead of those, really big deep bin here in the center, and also decent sized door bins, which are actually now rubberized so stuff won't slide around. One thing that the CX-30 really gets right here in the back seat is that the doors open really wide and the roofline doesn't get too cut away, so putting child seats in should be okay. However, the ISOFIX points, the ISOFIXies, they still have a little cap that you'll lose within about 5 seconds. It's always best for those to be capless, but either way, look, that's slim pickings, isn't it? As for the room back here, it's not bad. I reckon you could fit 2 adults pretty comfortably. I'm sitting behind my own driving position and my legroom is just okay. I am slightly against the back of the seat on the shins, but headroom is fine. I've got another couple of inches of that, despite this car being equipped with the sunroof. Shoulder room is not bad either, but I reckon you'd be pushing it to get 3 bigger people here in the back, but 3 kids, they should be fine. As for amenities, we have air vents, that's good. CX-3 doesn't have those, CX-5 does. We've got a nice wide armrest here with 2 cup holders. But why is Mazda moving away from rear USB ports? That doesn't make any sense for a car that will be hitting the market in 2020. Come on. Comfort though is good. The backrest is decently angled, there's some thigh support and that same nice plush leather here in the back. Just wish the soft touch material extended to the tops of the doors back here. One area that the CX-30 considerably improves upon over other Mazda SUVs is in the packaging department. That is, they've worked out how to make the boot properly competitive with the rest of the segment. Because although the CX-30 only splits the difference about halfway between the CX-3 and the CX-5 dimensionally, the boot at 430 litres is almost as big as the CX-5's, which has 442 litres. It means this car is going to have one of the biggest boots in the segment. It's also a pretty practical space, very square, but we're still waiting for Mazda to add stuff like shopping bag hooks or remote releases in order to drop that second row. But all in all, pretty practical space. Dynamically, the CX-30 will likely be its own beast, quite different to both the CX-3 and the CX-5. The engine lineup is likely to include the 2-litre naturally aspirated petrol currently found in the CX-3, making 114 kilowatts of power, the 2.5-litre naturally aspirated petrol from the CX-5, making around 139 kilowatts of power, the Skyactiv X supercharged petrol engine that will arrive in the Mazda 3 later this year, and also the 1.8-litre turbo diesel currently used in the CX-3. So as you can see, it really will be a mixed bag of dynamic inclusions from both the smaller CX-3 and the larger CX-5. It shares a platform with the Mazda 3 small car, so it should be pretty good to drive on road, with a focus on a relatively plush ride and a quiet insulated cabin. But as for all of that sort of thing, we'll have to wait and see for when the car arrives on local roads in Australia. However, we do know that the gearboxes should include both a 6-speed auto and a 6-speed manual, and that all-wheel drive will be a very likely option in Australia. So that's an in-depth first look at the 2020 Mazda CX-30, an SUV that will be arriving in Australia sometime next year. As for exactly when, we're not sure, but with the first European deliveries commencing in the last months of 2019, we can't imagine that Australia, a really key Mazda market, will have to wait too much longer than that. As for me, I actually quite like the CX-30. I like the size, I like the way it looks, and that cabin should be a real knockout in the segment. So hopefully it's good to drive, and I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to do that very soon. Now, if you haven't subscribed to Chasing Cars, please do so by clicking below this video. Leave me a comment telling me all the things that you think about the new Mazda CX-30 and any other feedback you've got. And always, thanks for watching Chasing Cars.